Hello, I'm Dante from Low Mana and welcome to the third comic in the Heroes of the Storm series, Fall of Kings Crest. It's been some time, but Blizzard are now starting to deliver on the conflict set up in previous comics over the last few months. So before we run through this latest comic, I think it's important we cover where the previous comic left off, as it has been several months since then. In short, Deckard Cain has now arrived in King's Crest, and quickly becomes friends and somewhat of an advisor to the Queen of Thorns. Ophea joins him while fighting off knights from the Ravenlord. Cain took her to the Queen as both a refugee and as a warning of the impending assault. During the same meeting, we learn more about the curse of the Dragonshire that locks the king in stone as the Dragon Knight. This curse can only be broken by a prophecy of the sun and moon joining together, which represents the son and daughter of the Queen of Thorns. As the comic ends, we see the Ravenlord begin his assault upon Alterac Pass, deceiving the Horde to furthering his plans of consolidating power, which leads us nicely into the opening scenes of the Fall of King's Crest. Straight away we are thrown into the conflict of Alterac Pass, 1 month prior to the events we're about to see. The Queen of Thorns is telling the tale of how the Ravenlord tricked the enemy faction of the Horde into helping him overthrow the land, resulting in him claiming the realm's singularity, taking the power for himself and bolstering his already strengthened forces. As we move from the scene of the battle previously fought, we pan down to the Queen, telling this story to her husband, still trapped in stone. Still suffering from the loss, she ponders if it's even possible to defeat him now that he has claimed at least 4 singularities, one of which, the Dark Nexus, had previously been banished due to its corruptive nature. We then cut into the present day, the Ravenlord's forces now entering the lands of King's Crest, and more specifically, an assault upon Dragonshire itself. She is attempting to rally her own forces to prepare for the next attack on her homeland, which you may have noticed has been reinforced with new heroes that those new shiny skins belong to. This threat has also brought together her children, who historically do not get on well, a sign of just how dire the situation is, and as I mentioned previously, important to the curse of the stone that their family suffers. From here we cut straight into the action. The Ravenlord in his giant raven form arrives, bringing with him the Dark Nexus champions, as well as his vast army of knights. The first casualty is Alexstrasza, being taken down by the dark, more powerful version, as the new Zarya takes down Uther just before Jimmy Boy steps up to the fight. Valeera and one of the Queen's knights manage to take down Dark Gul'dan as Whitemane gloats over their slow advancement. I expect nothing less of a witch Whitemane of the Crimson Crusade. We then jump away from the chaos to the Prince and Princess, fighting as you would expect, but in front of their father locked in stone. By a curse only they have the power to lift. The prince's name is then shown officially for I think the first time in these comics. We do also know the name of the daughter though, Delia. After some convincing, Varric asks Deckard to evacuate the civilians while they do what only they can do, release the Dragon Knight. The wording they use here is particularly important and is something I glossed over on my first read through, and it's especially relevant later in this comic. By the sun and the moon be free, until our strength fades. Notice they don't break the curse, merely push it back. It seems that the curse will persist after they free him. It's merely stalled. But this curse affects their family line, yet stops with the children. If they had children, would it eventually pass down to them? Feels like something I certainly need to go back and recover to fully understand how exactly the curse operates. And can it be passed to other Nexus Lords? But anyway, back to the comic itself. The Dragon Knight comes to life, greeting his children as Alterac, doing as Alterac does, rudely interrupts. Before he has time to insult the healer, he is quickly sliced in two by the Dragon Knight. At last the tides are beginning to turn. Well, for those 30 seconds maybe. I'm not too sure how, but the Ravenlord has predicted this move, and was waiting. Just as they think they're safe, the Ravenlord uses his Dark Nexus powers upon the king, twisting the Dragon Knight into a dark energy Dragon Knight. Although he seems to keep his cognitive abilities, he is unable to stop the corruption from taking hold, becoming a passenger as his dragon form attempts to murder his own children. Taking his advice, the two begin to flee. Well, after Delia saves Varric's life before being punted into the distance, crashing through the windows of the throne room, laying in front of the very prophecy that they conducted. The Dragon Knight approaches to finish what he started, promptly crushing Delia into the ground and presumably killing her in the process. Varric, being the fool that he is, dives on top of his sister to try and save her life. As you can see, another body on the pile isn't going to prevent this giant corrupted dragon from crushing the pair. In classic movie fashion, the Queen of Thorns arrives just too late. Seeing her children laying on the ground, she draws her sword upon her husband, blinding him long enough with her magic to drive her giant sword through his head, giving him just enough time to apologise for what he has done before the curse finally leaves him. Now it's time for the true plan of the Ravenlord, to take King's Crest. The Queen of Thorns, in her weakened state, is in no position to fight back. He promptly disarms her as she attempts to stem the bleeding from her battle. Although weak, she is not powerless, using the last of her power to open a portal out of the throne room, allowing Kain and the last of the civilians to escape. Although I'm not too sure how he got into this room or where all the people came from, as they certainly weren't here a minute ago. With one last cry for Ophea, Deckard takes his chance to depart, leaving the Queen alone, face to face with the Ravenlord. About now is when those words from her children become relevant. Be free until our strength fades. Their strength has certainly faded. The curse is emboldened, and with the Queen of Thorns weakened, the Ravenlord is able to use his power to break her resistance. And without her children, there is no one left to stop the curse, as it slowly consumes her as it once did her husband. With her powerless, the Ravenlord takes the King's Crest singularity, corrupting it with dark energy and absorbing it into himself. As the Queen of Thorns' reign ends, the curse takes hold, desperately reaching for the power to hold back the curse. But it's too late. For now, hope is lost. King's Crest has fallen, the Ravenlord emboldened and empowered. He departs onto the next step in his conquest, leaving the Queen alone in her throne room, where she will remain for the rest of time. This is when we get the final reveal of the comic, the daughter of the Ravenlord Ophea, who this whole time has been observing from atop the throne room. She watched King's Crest fall, its power stolen by her own family, and did nothing, watching the corruption and pure malice of her father was finally enough for her to step up and make her stand, even if the cost was great. She is all that remains to stand up to the darkness, to push back the Dark Nexus and her father. That's the story of the fall of King's Crest, but there are still a few details I want to cover before leaving you. The first is Ophea. Since the very first comic, it's been speculated by the community that she will become the very first Nexus origin hero. As much as I would like to see an original Nexus hero enter the roster, I personally think she'll serve another purpose. Alterac Pass was a new land with no ruler, but King's Crest was an established nation with a powerful Nexus Lord. The only way to stand up to a Nexus Lord is to become one yourself. Ophea certainly has the potential, as she comes from a family of Nexus Lords. I think she will attempt to lead the resistance by becoming one herself, and restoring the balance of power. This, in theory, could mean she might save the Queen of Thorns later on, and gain a powerful ally for the final pushback of the Ravenlord. How will she become a Nexus Lord? Well, there is still a lot we don't know or understand about the lore of the Nexus. But I have a bit of a tin hat theory, and I believe it's partially to do with that casket she's been carrying around. What if that is her mother, who we haven't even seen referenced? What if she herself was a Nexus Lord, and either Ophea can use her mother to claim a singularity, or can use her to find a new one to claim? I suspect she is carrying that casket so she can return her mother to where she came from. And considering where she brought her, I doubt it's within the Ravenlord's domain, and would explain why the Ravenlord was so desperate to get her back, as she holds the power to push back a coming war that he has foreseen. That would explain why she escaped, and why she is carrying such a large object. Bit of a stretch, but I'd love to hear what you think of that idea. The next piece is, where did all those refugees go as they fled King's Crest, including that portal the Queen opened, and is this where the Ravenlord is heading next? Considering her family, I would assume they have fled to the Garden of Terror, as Queen Nightshade is the sister of the Queen of Thorns. She too is afflicted with a curse that turns her into a terror at night, completely unknown to her. At least that's what she claims. She would be an obvious ally even if somewhat removed due to her condition. She is, as far as I know, the only other Nexus Lord within King's Crest, and now apparently the last safe haven. Being so close to the previous assaults would make it a clear target for the Ravenlord to consume more power. And finally, what effect do you think this is going to have on the gameplay within the Nexus? The hope from myself and others I've spoken to is that this battle will actually carry over into the game itself. With Halloween also on the horizon, it would become a great thematic switch too. I want to see a Dark Nexus version of Dragonshire, with the corrupted Dragon Knight taking its place. Minions replaced with Dark Nexus Knights, and a more Raven Lord dark aesthetic. This, along with the new skins shown by Blizzard, would be a great start for Halloween, and leading us into the quickly approaching BlizzCon at the start of November. This is my idea for the Dark Nexus, but what do you want to see impact the game, if anything? And how do you think they would achieve it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. Let me know what you thought of both the comic and this video in the description below. You can support the channel by subscribing and use the bell to be notified of future content as it goes live. Until next time, I've been Dan here, thanks for watching.